I spent quite a lot of time working and reworking the trees and going back and looking at the shapes of those in particular, because they made quite a strong element to my picture. I also did, these were some separate occasion, I went out and redrew the hedges, which I really like because they were sort of rough and torn. They'd been along them with a tractor and just sort of hacked them off, and I like the contrast of those rough shapes with the sort of graceful curves of the tree, and also I really like the shapes that came in between the branches as they crossed over. So I started to play with that. That one was much too beautiful. So that's the hedge. Again, that was beginning to be closer to what I wanted, quite sort of jagged and angular. And then I did lots and lots of thumbnail sketches trying to work out the best composition. Also got to the point where I realised I could make it into a nighttime or a daytime picture. I went out once and the sun was just a really perfect circle in the sky, which could be interpreted either way as a sun or a moon, depending on how I adjusted the colours and the shadows. So that was a decision to make. This was more experimenting with hedges and shapes, and I was making deep grooves into mount board and then printing on the back. I've got some really lovely effects. I love this one. But what I was working on here was very flimsy sort of chip shop paper, and the effects that I got there I wasn't able to get when I moved to the heavier paper for my final prints. So I did some experimenting with that heavier paper, managed to get some quite good effects there that were interesting. Just playing around really to see what I could get, and different effects with torn edges. So it was beginning all just playing and beginning to formulate ideas and how that might work on the paper. I made up my first board and printed off it, and my initial reaction was that I was really disappointed with this. It wasn't what I wanted at all. Having come back to it and looked at it since, apart from the creases in the paper, it's quite interesting, and it's got a mood and an atmosphere about it that I quite like. And then I remembered a technique that I used before in a workshop. So instead of using a mount board plate, which I'd done for the first print, I then moved to an acetate plate. So this is a large sheet of acetate, and I've painted on it, glued paper onto it, cut it, scratched it, and this I felt this would give me much more control over different areas and how they were printed, and it helped me to get more contrast between the sort of loose areas and the very defined lines, and I could also put patches of colour on. So although it's a print in several colours, they were all done at the same time just by the way that I inked up the acetate. And I did notes in my sketchbook about what went well. It was definitely a monoprint, and I liked it. It was suitable for the subject matter. That was what I wanted to achieve. What I didn't like was the bulkiness of the clouds. The sand flaked everywhere, and some of the lines needed to be more defined. That's a mount board experiment with grooves and sand.